Welcome to another episode of Give and Go, SI.com's critically acclaimed web series. We debate three of the biggest storylines in the NBA. In today's episode, we look at the team to beat in the crowded West, dark horse candidates in both conferences, and the happiest lottery team of the bunch. Joining me today is a man who has never met a 2,500-word blog post he didn't like, SI.com's Ben Golliver. What's up, Ben?
I'd kill to only have to write 2,500. Watch out. I got a 10,001 coming this week.
All right, topic number one. Golden State will go into the postseason as the top overall seed, but the hottest team in the West right now might be San Antonio. The Spurs have won 11 straight and look a lot like the defending champs from a year ago. Ben, right now, 7-game series, Spurs or Warriors, who you got?
I'll take the Spurs, and simply just because I picked the Spurs over the Cavs as my preseason finals pick, and I'm really clinging to that. But I think San Antonio presents a lot more problems for Golden State than any other team in the West. I mean, primarily they've got an elite perimeter defender in Kawhi Leonard who you can put on Stephen Curry. They've got a secondary perimeter defender in Danny Green who you can put on Klay Thompson. And then they've got the size and the versatility to play big if Golden State wants to play big inside, or go small if Golden State wants to go small inside. I just think that they match up really well. They clearly have the experience edge. They've got an incredible coach. I think Golden State's coaching staff is great. So, to beat them in a series, you're really going to have a great coach. Clearly, San Antonio has that. I think the one thing that Golden State has in its favor, of course, is the home court advantage aspect. I mean, they've been incredible at home this year, but they're not undefeated. So they're beatable. And to me, I take San Antonio for all those reasons.
Yeah, I'd love to disagree with you, and I hate to bag on Golden State because of the type of year that they had. And it's not just a bandwagon jump given the fact that the Spurs have won 11 in a row. It's just I think right now they look like the best team in basketball. And as great as Golden State has played, that experience edge that you talked about is a significant edge. I don't think that San Antonio would have any problem going to Golden State, taking one of those games, and putting all the pressure back on the Warriors to reclaim home court advantage in San Antonio. All the things you mentioned are 100% accurate. And just as impressive, Ben, is that this team has done it with really a pedestrian last month and a half from Tony Parker. Really has only had a couple of good games here or there mixed in with some pretty bad shooting performances. I really believe that when the bright lights go on and Tony Parker gets to the playoffs, we're going to see the old Tony Parker, and that's going to make them that much more dangerous.
I think he's one of the biggest X factors in the entire postseason. I mean, absolutely. Is he going to give you an A effort? If so, you have a really strong chance in that series. If he only gives you a C effort, all of a sudden, that Curry advantage becomes a huge deal for Golden State. One thing that I love, if you look at the All-Star break, or since the All-Star break, what are the best lineups in the NBA? The best lineups by net rating, it's the Spurs starters, the Cavs starters, the Warriors starters, and the Clippers starters. So you've got 4 teams who are all playing with lots of momentum heading into the postseason. I think that could make for some excellent, matchups, whether it's in the second round or the conference finals or on into the finals. I think it's real cause for excitement if you're an NBA fan.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what's going to matter, too, is what seed the Spurs get in the postseason. It'll make it much more difficult if they have to play 2 straight rounds of the 6th seed on the road going into a Warriors series, or instead having home court advantage as the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. All right, topic number 2, 4 clear top contenders in both conferences. But I'm going to give you 2 teams, Ben, that could upset the apple cart and make a run to the conference finals. Who do you got?
Well, I think in the Eastern Conference, if you want to call them a dark horse, I'm not sure if the Bulls are in your 4 or not. I'm guessing you mean Atlanta in that 4 in the East. But to me, the Bulls are probably the dark horse simply because they've got guys healthy now finally. And are they going to be at 100%? I think that's still an open question, especially when you're talking about Derrick Rose. But they've gotten tons of big-time performances all season long from various guys, whether it's Gasol, whether it's Butler. Rose gave you a little bit early, and you've got other pieces as well. Of course, Mirotic, we talked about him as potential Rookie of the Year candidate. I mean, you've got a lot of different players who are contributing. I think, can you gel them together in a short time frame to make a run here? I think that's an open question. But to me, they're kind of the sleeper maybe in the East when you're looking at, compared to teams with better records like Cleveland or Atlanta. Out West, I'm not sure I really see a sleeper. I think the second tier, when you're putting aside Golden State and San Antonio, the second tier probably includes the Clippers, the Grizzlies, and the Rockets. To me, of those three, I'd probably lean towards the Grizzlies simply because of their prior track record, their excellent defense, the fact that they've got a lot of gamers, and they can really punish you inside. I mean, all of those things to me probably set them apart, even though they haven't played that well over the last month. But I really do think it's pretty much a two-horse race in the Western Conference.
Breaking out the word gamers for this segment. I like it. Look, in the Eastern Conference, the dark horse are tough to find, but I'm going to lean towards the Washington Wizards. It's not based on anything that I've seen right now. It's just that on paper, this team does have the talent to make some noise if they can get it all together. Now, the second half of the season has been a disaster. I mean, the 4-5 matchup, that's one of those destined for NBA TV types of matchups because nobody cares really about the Toronto and Washington matchup. But the Wizards, if they can somehow find their chemistry again, if they can start defending a little bit, that front line they have, the size up there with Gortat and Nene, Paul Pierce, the experience he has at that position, John Wall and Bradley Beal, they've been to the postseason together before. I give them an outside chance of maybe getting it together and making a run and giving somebody in that second round, maybe it's a Cleveland, a tough run for their money before bowing out. In the Western Conference, I totally agree with you. I don't know if there is a dark horse there. I'm going to call Houston the dark horse in this regard just because with Patrick Beverley down for the season, it makes the Rockets a weaker team having to play lesser players at that point guard spot. But James Harden, if he gets rolling, Dwight Howard, if he plays at the top of his game, that team could make some noise as well. Those are my two teams in the West. All right, topic number 3. 16 teams will make the playoffs, leaving 14 teams in the lottery mix. Ben, excluding Oklahoma City and New Orleans, which lottery team has the brightest future?
Well, I think another kind of team that maybe should be excluded is Indiana, right? I mean, if they wind up in the lottery and it's just because Paul George was out all year, clearly you bring a player like that back into your mix. That's a pretty bright future. If we're talking about true lottery teams, I think it's the Utah Jazz. I mean, not only because of how Rudy Gobert has really transformed their defense over the second half of the year. I mean, they've been putting up excellent advanced stats pretty much since the trade deadline. I like the core, Hayward, Favors, Gobert. I think that's pretty much, answers every question just about. To me, they got to find a point guard. I'm not a real believer in Trey Burke at this point. So they got to answer that question. Do they have the cap space to go out and do that? I think that would, certainly catapult them up if they were able to find a reliable answer at the one position. And I think they've got a great coach in Quinn Snyder as well. So to me, if you're a Jazz fan, this is probably the best time to be a Jazz fan compared to any point over the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh, come on. 2 things. First, you're a Dante Exum hater because I think he can be their point guard of the future in Utah. Second, I think you can put Indiana in that mix because they could go into next season minus a Roy Hibbert if for some reason he opts out of his contract. David West, a year older, I believe he has a player option on his deal next year. That team could be in a little bit of flux going into next year as well. I actually lean towards Utah in terms of lottery teams I'd be most optimistic about because their youth, I think, does put them on the upswing, whereas right now I'm not sure where Indiana is in terms of their long-term development. But excluding Utah, I might look at Orlando, and I see a lot of good young talent within that team too. Elfrid Payton, if he can just learn how to shoot, I think he can be a terrific point guard prospect. Victor Oladipo gets a little bit better, in my opinion, every single week, every single year. They've got Vucevic in the front line to be the staple in the middle. I think if you add one more piece to that mix, give Aaron Gordon another year, get in a real top-flight coach, maybe a Tom Thibodeau type to coach down there and get these young guys in line and have them playing the right way, that's a team that I think could have a bright future and be in the playoff mix in the next year or two.
Yeah, they got to figure out that fit, I think, at their backcourt. I mean, can those guys play together, and can they find some shooting to surround them so they've got enough room in the paint to do what they do best, which is, sort of attack the basket. But, yeah, there's a lot of intrigue, and they definitely have to answer that coaching question because I don't think they have answered that at all over the last couple of years, and they don't look much better under the interim coach right now. But certainly, they've got a lot of young assets. How do they put them together? That's the question.
Yeah, I don't think you can teach Elfrid Payton to be a great shooter, but if you can teach him at the very least to be a serviceable guy that you have to kind of step out and defend occasionally, I think his dynamic athletic ability combined with Oladipo, that would be a good pairing. All right, Ben, great job. We look forward to the next 13,000-word opus that's going to appear on SI.com.
All right, take care, Chris.
All right, that's it for Give and Go. Catch us this week and every week right here on SI.com.